They Drive by Night was a very enjoyable film from 1940 starring George Raft, Humphrey Bogart, Ann Sheridan, and Ida Lupino. This was a surprising film as I went into this not really knowing what to expect. All I knew on the surface was that this was Humphrey Bogart and George Raft and it had something to do with driving trucks. But boy, as you watch the film, it becomes not only a drama about truck driving, but there's also a romantic drama element as well as this fatal attraction formula, and even a little bit of a court drama with plenty of twists and turns, including at one point a really neat Hitchcock-style twist. This film was amazing, and while George Raft and Humphrey Bogart could be considered the primary stars of the film, I have to say, Ida Lupino really steals this film. I mean, hands down, she is amazing here. And oh man, her character really goes dark. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. The film opens up and we see George Raft and Humphrey Bogart. They're two brothers, Joe and Paul. They're struggling to make it as commercial truck drivers. And note, this is like the early 1940s. We're not talking about these big, secure, modern-looking 18-wheelers, but instead big, clunky, dangerous-looking trucks. You know, they look more like the truck that was hauling the Ark of the Covenant around in Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you know what I mean. And George Raft, his character initially seems to be the main protagonist of this film, but like I said, boy, it's unexpected the direction that this film goes. And even Humphrey Bogart's character doesn't seem to occupy too much of this particular film. And I've seen George Raft in the film Invisible Stripes. I think he's a great actor, and I'd like to see more of his films. And both he and Bogart, they have this grimy trucker look and feel and smell to them throughout this film. And the system that they follow as they're driving these trucks is, you know, one will drive while the other snoozes. And eventually they stop to get some food. And the theme seems to be they have to avoid this little guy who's always trying to reclaim the truck since it hasn't been paid for. So the two brothers, they stop at a diner, and Joe flirts with the character Cassie, who's played by the lovely Ann Sheridan. A little later in the film, he will help her with finding a place to stay and helping her financially. And of course, soon romance will follow between the two characters. Joe drops off Paul in his home, where his long-suffering wife is waiting. And her character, you know, she really wants a baby and she's waiting for him. But Paul's character, this is Bogart, he's really just seems worn out. He's spent from all this driving. So the poor guy just crashes. That seems to be the theme throughout this film, is just the exhaustion of being a truck driver back in the day. So Joe goes to meet with his old friend Ed, who runs a shipping business. Ed is played by this very lively, funny, laughing Alan Hale. Now, I have to admit to my three fans, I was getting my Alan Hales mixed up in an earlier review. Okay, Alan Hale Senior is the one in this film, but it's Alan Hale Jr., his son, who was the skipper on Gilligan's Island. Now, I think there's a strong resemblance in both appearance and personality, even in voice, but I think I misspoke in an earlier review where I was watching something with Alan Hale Sr. and I said he was the skipper, so I apologize to any of my three fans that I offended. I mean, it makes sense. This was the 1940s, so this would have to be Alan Hale Sr., because Gilligan's Island didn't really kick off until the mid-60s with the 7 stranded castaways. So that would make sense that it was his son. So, hey, it's a learning process. My reviews aren't polished. I just talk about films that I like. I upload it, throw in some pictures, and put it on YouTube. Come on, whatever. Anyhow, back to the review. Ed is married to Lana, who's played here amazingly by Ida Lupino. Ed is this loud, goofy, laughing guy. But Lana, we see from the very beginning, she just despises him deeply. She's got this really nasty, passive-aggressive attitude that Ed, for the most part, just seems to ignore. Now, it's at this point we establish that Lana has definitely got a thing going on for Joe, but he's not having any of it. You know, she's the boss's wife. No way. And he also respects his friend Ed, so. But she's persistent in an obsessive, fatal attraction sort of way. So as I mentioned, you know, one of the themes that's established in this film is the difficulty of being a, commercial truck driver, and how there's issues with drowsiness and exhaustion. And even drinking lots of coffee doesn't seem to always help these characters. And soon enough, there's a scene where Joe and Paul, they're driving, and while Joe sleeps, Paul, this is Bogart, he starts to get sleepy behind the wheel, and soon their truck goes flying off the road. Now, Joe is thrown to safety with minor injury, but Paul takes the worst of the accident. And after a hospital stay, he gets released, but he's lost an arm. So he's grounded. He's out of the picture for a while, staying at home. So Joe goes off to a party with his boss, Lana, and others, and there's a lot of drinking, and his boss, Ed, he just gets majorly plastered and acts like a total goofball. Lana drives him home, but finally having had enough of his drunken craziness, she parks in the garage, leaves the car running accidentally, then walks away and accidentally trips the light that makes the garage door close on him, leading to his death. Now, shortly after, she shows up at the DA's office. She's sobbing. District attorney believes her story, that it was a giant accident. And it's at this point when she's walking away and we see that malicious smile on her face. Wow, this film took a dark direction, but it's great. So Lana proposes to Joe that because she knows nothing about running a truck shipping business, that they go in as partners. Now, she's clearly got ulterior motives going on, but Joe, he's in this for the business. Later, when Cassie meets with Joe at the garage, and Lana can see that there's the romance between the two of them. Oh man, Lana is furious, and she just goes full-on crazy to get Joe framed. And she changes her story to the DA, saying that, she was forced to do this story by Joe and so on. Now, how and why they would believe her right off the bat was a little puzzling. Legally, I guess it's a little sketchy, but hey, it's a movie, so, whatever. And there's an amazing scene later in the film where Cassie confronts Lana. And Lana starts freaking out because in the room, there's this automatic door that opens and closes and kind of brings back the memories of the automatic garage door that she used to murder her husband. Definitely has a Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock vibe at that point. I love that scene. And as we near the end of the film, it veers into courtroom drama. I mean, wow, this film covers it all. And again, I'm going to keep ranting about Ida Lupino, as she does an incredible job of not only being this jealous character, but being one that, wow, just seems to get weirder and finally breaks down completely near the end of this film. I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but I just really want to praise her acting in this film. It is amazing. You really got to see how this film ends for yourself. So some closing thoughts is that what an amazing film this was, and totally not what I was expecting. Going into this, I thought, it's Humphrey Bogart, he's in a film about driving trucks, but as you start to read deeper into this, it's more than just the struggles of these commercial truck drivers. It's a romantic thriller, it's got some murder, it's got a lot of suspense and intrigue, and even a little bit of court drama at the end. And Ida Lupino, I really think she's unbelievable. In a lot of ways, I think she steals the film. Although George Raft and Humphrey Bogart, they're both excellent as well as sort of the lead characters of this film. I also enjoyed seeing Ann Sheridan. I've seen her in some other films as well, and I thought she was excellent here. And also a note just about the actor Roscoe Carnes. He's only in a couple scenes. He's kind of the goofy comic relief character who's hooked on playing pinball. He's a funny character, and I thought he added a little bit of silly humor to this film as he's like obsessed with winning his pinball machine. Anyhow, it's a great film. It's unpredictable. It seems to be 3 or 4 different themes going on at once, but it all comes together at the end. And it's really good stuff. This is worth checking out.